Pilgrim, I mean 4th, 8th century CE, so late Roman Empire and early Middle Ages. So pilgrim in this period followed established trade route throughout the Roman Empire and take advantage of the existing infrastructure. Then later, these pilgrims start to build their own infrastructure for hosting the travelers. In this century, the only destination of Christian pilgrimage was the Holy Land. And for the Holy Land, I mean what is today Israel and Palestine. So basically, all these Christian pilgrims were going to visit the tomb, the Holy Sepulchre, all these landmark in the Holy Land. There are several examples of people who traveled there. There are many wealthy Romans who sold all what they have, and they went there to the Holy Land, took residence, and some even established monasteries. So it was really an important experience for Christian, I have to say, for rich Christian. So these were wealthy people who were going there. It was not for everyone, the pilgrimage to the Holy Land. I just want to mention only one of these pilgrims. She was a Spanish woman, probably was a nun, we don't know. Her name was Egeria, and she went to the Holy Land and then wrote about her journey. This journey is the travel of Egeria. It's a kind, I define the a Lonely Planet guide for pilgrims going in the Holy Lands. She gives a lot of tips, suggestions about this journey that was pretty long and also was pretty dangerous. So pilgrims during the ancient time and the Middle Age very often risk their life for getting to the destination. So it was very, in certain period, it was very unsafe to travel to certain land. And this is a commemorative stamp from the Spanish post of Egeria. The story said that at some point she was riding this donkey for reaching Jerusalem. Yeah. Okay, so in the Middle Ages, pilgrimage a little bit changed. It was more a mass scale pilgrimage, and in addition to the Holy Land, in addition to Jerusalem, Rome and Santiago became the main destination for all these Christians who want to do this pilgrimage. As I say, it was a really difficult trip. Many people die in the way to or from the destination, especially the Holy Land. Was the pilgrimage to the Holy Land was particularly challenging. I put an example in there was in these years 10,000 pilgrims went to the Holy Land and half died. So 5,000 people died in going to or going from the Holy Land. So it was really, really difficult, both doing this pilgrimage by land or by sea. By sea, the problem were the pirates. So it was piracy was a big thing, both in the ancient time and the Middle Ages. However, by the about Santiago, by the 11th century, it's the century where Santiago became the top, among the top 3 destinations for this pilgrimage, along with Jerusalem and Rome. Okay, so now, why did these people in the Middle Ages embark in these pilgrimages? So there were several reasons, actually. Here there are some. Some people want to fulfill a penance, or they have a vow, basically, or they were seeking a cure from a disease. For example, the medical system in the ancient time, in the Middle Ages, was not that great. So many people were hoping that God would heal them. So that was also a reason. Indulgences, this then became a big problem late in the Middle Ages, because then there was a kind of business of the indulgence. At some point, the Pope in Rome started to sell the indulgence. So they pay, pilgrims, Christians pay for having indulgences. So this is really another reason why the pilgrims went to this pilgrimage. Today, the reason why pilgrims go to the Camino Santiago, for example, there are several reasons: spiritual, religious, cultural, or some people go just for entertaining and for exercise. So the religious component is not the only one today. Numbers, let's look at some numbers. So in the Middle Ages, there were, during the period of peace and prosperity, that I have to say, there were very few during the Middle Ages. There was always wars, conflict. So, but during periods of prosperity and peace, as many as 250,000 of people every yearly arrive to Santiago. This is a big number. For us, probably it's not big, but for the Middle Ages, this is a huge number. 250,000, even more than 250,000 people a year. Today, the number are, I mean, these are the most recent. There is also the number from 2020, 2021, the number completely plummeted with the COVID. In 2020, I think there were less than 1/3 of the people of the pilgrim of 2019. So these are the most significant year now. So in 2019, there were basically 300, almost 50,000. And last year, there were almost 500,000. And I suspect that this year will be even more. So probably this year, the pilgrim going, the people going to Santiago will exceed the 500,000. So these are some routes of these pilgrim. These are some medieval pilgrim routes. So did you see? You have one going from Britain all the way to Rome. This one. Okay, perfect. So here you have this from Britain going all the way to Rome. It is called the Via Francigena. And actually very recently, the Italians are trying to create something similar to the Camino. There is a portion here in central Italy from Assisi to Rome that is kind of the Italian Camino. Then there is, this one from Germany going to Jerusalem here, also the sea route. So there were different routes to these three main sites. So Santiago here, Rome, and Jerusalem. Here there are more routes. So again, the Via Francigena, these are the different routes for the Camino from France. So you see they cross the Pyrenees and then go to all North Spain to Santiago. These routes were not confined to Western Europe. There were routes that were as far as Moscow. There was a pilgrim route going from Moscow all the way to Rome and Santiago. And it was passing also what is today Lithuania, Vilnius, Poland, Germany. So there was this east-west route. And last summer, we went in Vilnius, Lithuania, and we saw actually this. This is basically, this picture was taken, we took this picture was the Cathedral of Vilnius. If you can see below here, this is an albergo, peregrini. So this is an hotel kind albergue for pilgrim. And look here, there is the sign. So even in Vilnius, in Lithuania, and actually there is a revival of pilgrim routes in Eastern Europe. In recent years, this medieval route from Moscow all the way to Santiago have been revised by some nations. For example, we have now a Lithuanian Camino, and this the picture that we saw was part of this Camino. We have a Latvian Camino, a Polish Camino. This is a map of the Polish Camino. So, of course. And here you have all these numbers. Here are the existing routes of the Camino in Poland. The other map here is that it's the route cutting Lithuania here. So there is a lot of interest. In recent years, there's a lot of interest in this Camino. Many European countries are trying to create something similar to what Spain did with the Camino de Santiago. So a lot of potential here. Now let's focus on our Camino, the Spanish Camino, the Camino de Santiago. There are several routes. Here in this map, you can see the traditional and most important routes. So you have here this one, it's the main, it's the French way from the Pyrenees, going northern Spain to Santiago. Then there is this one is called Via de la Plata, going from Seville all the way to Santiago, the Portuguese way that Richard and Margaret did from Porto. Then the primitive, it is called the primitive Camino. And then there is our Camino that actually it's the shortest one of all the Camino. It's very good for beginners, actually. Many beginners start from the English way. So it's really good for people who have never done the Camino before. So now since we will do the English way, I want to talk a little bit about this particular route. So el Camino Inglés. So this route is kind of unique because it's a combination of sea routes and land route. What we will do is basically it's the last part of this route. It is the land route from Ferrol or A Coruña. It starts either way. So this is the route. You can start from Ferrol. We will start from here. From Neda, it's here. Oh, people can start also from A Coruña. And here you see the map of Spain. Here, where is then this route? Why is called the English way? It has this name because in A Coruña, in Ferrol, there were harbor port where all the pilgrims from the British Islands or from Scandinavia or even from Iceland arrive by sea. So you have all these northern European pilgrims, most of all from England, that embark in some port it could be also in Ireland, in Dublin, in Plymouth, Canterbury, and going down, arriving to A Coruña, and then in A Coruña walk, or Ferrol walk to Santiago. So that's why it's called the English way, because there was a big presence of British English people. So the earliest records of English pilgrim, it's from the late 11th centuries, 12th centuries. However, this route became super important during the many conflicts that England had with France. So these two nations were at war for a big chunk of time in the Middle Ages. The most important conflict, for example, was the 100-year war. So when there was this conflict between England and France, the pilgrims cannot go through France, so they need to go to these sea routes. So, and that in this period that the English way became well established. Also, the English-British pilgrims also support, I mean economically support, the building of many hospitals around the Camino. For example, the Pilgrim Hospital in Neda, Siguero, Betanzos. It seems that originally were kind of financed, were built thanks to these English pilgrims. And I think we will visit some of these. I mean, the remains.
We'll stay.
Yeah, we'll stay there. So basically the origin of this place where we will stay, it's basically thanks to these English pilgrims. The English way declined when there were the conflict between Henry VIII and the Catholic Church. Probably you are familiar with this. Henry VIII wanted to divorce the Spanish wife and want to remarry. The Pope of Rome didn't agree to this divorce, and he created his own church, the Anglican Church. At this point, there was a lot of tension between Spain and Rome and the British monarchy. So, and then also we established the Anglican Church. Fewer English pilgrims went to Santiago, and the route decline basically was almost disappeared. So it was kind of rediscovered, recovered in early, recently. So for after the 1500, basically the English way was almost gone. So here I put together a few testimonies about pilgrims who walk this English way. We have this account of a crusader who, before going to the Holy Land, went to Santiago. And we have the account. The second one is super interesting. So he was a Benedict monk from Iceland. He embarked in this pilgrimage from Iceland all the way to Rome, and his way to Rome, he stopped to Santiago. He described all this journey, and actually his work he wrote in ancient Icelandic. I don't think has been translated in English, the account of this Benedictine monk. And for this monk, the pilgrimage of this monk from Iceland all the way to Rome took 5 years. So a pilgrimage was a serious thing. So you risk your life, you need several years to spare for going to the place and coming back. So not everyone can afford to go to these pilgrimages. And then later we have these another sources say that in 1434 there were 3,000 pilgrims arrived by boat in A Coruña. It is a lot for the period. So these are just a few selected testimonies, medieval testimonies about pilgrims in the English way. That is this I found this super. I discovered this very recently. So basically, there were 4 Irish men who built a traditional boat. I cannot pronounce the name, Naum Hog, it's a Celtic name. So they built this boat, and they sailed from Dublin all the way to A Coruña. So they kind of retrace the route of the Irish pilgrims going to the Camino of Santiago. And while they were doing this, they shoot the deeds, and became a movie. So this could be another movie about the Camino. If you are interested, it's called The Camino Voyage. So it is four men that sailed for more than 1,500 miles along the coast of Britain, France, all the way to Santiago. I found this really, really interesting.
How long did it take it?
I think they say, I think it was 6 months, but they stopped. They stopped in several villages in France, and it's not that it was straight going to Dublin all the way to Santiago. They were stopping in all this. I think they did a lot of stop along the coast of France. So the scallop shell, I think we talk a little bit about this. There are many stories, legend, myth behind this. This is a symbol of the Camino. Here there are a few. St. James rescue a knight covered in scallop shell. Another one is the night horse fell in the water and emerged covered in scallop shells, while the remains of St. James were brought to Spain. Probably other scholars believe that it was a pagan, and for pagan I mean Celtic symbol of fertility, and another symbolic reason why there is the scallop is the shape resembling a setting sun. So these are all theories about why it is the scallop shell became a symbol of Santiago. And we will see this very often. It seems that most pilgrims, a lot of pilgrims tie a scallop shell to their bags. So like in this one. So we will see a lot of this, and also in the stone mark signing the route. So okay, now from the Middle Ages, let's go to modern time. So when actually the Camino was revised most recently, it started in the late 1800s. So these remains of St. James were again unearthed for a second time. Then the Pope of the period, Pope Leo XIII, issued his bull and say, these are indeed the remain of St. James and its companion. So this gave legitimacy, so gave the seal of legitimacy to these remains. So it became, that's why it became an important Christian place, Santiago. Then a little bit later, there was this book, but it's Walter Starkis talk about the Camino that kind of rekindled also the interest in the Camino. And most recently, in 1993, the Camino was declared UNESCO World Heritage Site. So these are important moments of how the Camino was revised. But the main person behind the revival of the Camino, it's this priest, Don Elias Valigna San Pedro. He was the priest of a very tiny Galician village called Osebreiro. He spent most of his life studying the Camino. He wrote his doctoral thesis on the Camino, and then for the rest of his life, he basically worked for revising this ancient medieval route were at that point in completely abandoned. So he started to clear portion of the were impassable, and is the one who created the yellow arrow. I have a story about this yellow arrow. Basically, he used this yellow arrow so that the pilgrim could easily find then the route. So this is just an aside. I found this interesting. I thought to share with you. So this priest was from this very tiny village, this Osebrero. It's 93 miles east to Santiago. It's very unique. It's very unique because he has these particular houses here. So they are this shape. They are called palozzas, and actually there are 9 palozzas left in this tiny village, and this is a stop for the pilgrims who walk the French way. So it's one of the last stop for in this route. So pilgrims who go through the French way go through this small village. Some of these palozzas were converted in a museum, and actually one, it's also a guest house. So if you are a tourist or a pilgrim and you want to stay in this structure, you can do it actually. And here they are more, they are very unique. The shape of these basically stone huts with these particular shape of the roof. So, but as I say, it's one of the stop in the French way. The yellow arrows. So Don Elias in the late 70s and 80s start to go along this French route with his car, and was starting not only to clear the path, but also to spray stones or the landmark for creating this route. Why yellow? There are very practical people assume that there are some symbolic meaning. It's very practical. Yellow is very visible. So it's a color that has great visibility. And also this was the color used for hiking trails in Galicia. So basically this is the reason. It's a very practical reason. There are several stories about Don Elias going with his car. It seemed it was an old car, was constantly braking, so going back and forth from the Pyrenees. One of the main stories that near the border with France, he was stopped by the civil guard. They say, "What are you doing with this yellow paint?" And they say, "I'm preparing a great invasion from France." So the policemen were alert, and they basically arrested him and brought to the barracks where he explained himself, and then was released. But here you have this example of yellow arrows along the route. So did you see that you can see also in big stones, so it's everywhere, this yellow arrow. But it's thanks to Don Elias that we have these arrows at all these routes, at least the French route. It's well signaled. Now, this is, now I want to just go over a couple of final things about the Camino in general. Like a jubilee for the Roman Catholic, in Rome, there is a kind also of jubilee in Santiago. This jubilee is when the 25th of July, that is St. James Day, it's the day, the feast of St. James, fall on Sunday. So when this happened, the year is called an holy year, but it's called the Jacobean holy year. So what is special about this year? Like the Jubilee in Rome, that is every 25 years, there are particular rituals that are done all in this year. In this case, the ritual is the opening of this door that is in the eastern part of the cathedral. I don't know if you can see here, you have, this is closed there is a gate. I don't know if it's visible, and here instead it's open. So you see the gate, it's up. So this means this picture was taken in one of these Jubilee years. We just missed this Jacobean year. It was in 2021. We had to wait until 2027. So if you want to do the Camino during this special year, you have to wait 4 years. It's very similar to the Jubilee in Rome. When there's the Jubilee, there are these particular doors in St. Peter, in St. John the Lateran that are open. So very similar. So it's the version of the Roman Jubilee. This is something that I'm very interested. If you are interested also, you should look at this. It's the Compostela. So if you do the, whoever does the Camino has a certificate. It's called the Compostela. So it's a document. Here you have the document here. So it's a document certified the completion of the Camino. I think you
It's in Latin too.
Huh?
It's all in Latin.
All in
Including
Latin.
the name.
Ah, cool. So how you get is a Compostela. So it is a document with issue award by the church authorities in the Cathedral of Santiago. This accreditation document has a kind of old, long history. It was created in the 9th and 10th centuries. At first, they were used object for certifying that the pilgrims did the Camino. Then there was a lot of falsification. So people start to have random objects and say, oh, I did the Camino. So showing a fake scallop share. So the church came out with this other method for certifying the Camino. It is basically letters. It is basically what is it is a Compostela. Now, how you get it is a Compostela. There are requirements. So these are the 4 most important requirements. The reason why you do the pilgrimage, it could be for religious or spiritual reason, or at least the person who wants the Compostela has an attitude of search. So it's pretty broad. Basically, everyone can have a Compostela. A big requirement is you need to do the last 100 kilometers on foot or horseback, no vehicle. If you go to Santiago by car or motorbike, you are not eligible for the Compostela. You need to walk or you need to drive a horse or a bike. But for the bike, you need to show that you have done 200 kilometers. Not 100, so it's more. Then there is, I think it's a particular kind of passport. They give you a passport. So basically you have this passport, and in every place that you stop in this last stretch of the Camino, you need to get stamps. So this is an example here. So and it seems that these stamps can be you can find these stamps everywhere, hostels, churches, everywhere. I think we will find these stamps in the hotel where we were staying, or in
They have to stamp it for you.
for you. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So restaurants, coffee shops, everywhere.
Everywhere. So you can find these stamps very easily. And another important thing is you need to choose stamps per day. So in the last 100 kilometers. So basically, this is how we look, this kind of passport, pilgrim passport with all these stamps. Then you go to the Cathedral of Santiago, showing all these stamps, and they will release this one. So the Compostela. This is basically it's the translation of the Latin. So you see the chapter of this Holy Apostolic Metropolitan Cathedral of Compostela, blah blah blah. Then there is your name, if you read your name, and then you basically say that you have done the last 100 kilometers in foot on horseback, and then the date. So that is something that I'm looking for. I love stamps, I love passport, all these, I have all these stamps from national park, lighthouses. I love stamps. So this is something that I will look, and it seems that it's pretty easy to get. Okay, I think with this it's all for the presentation. So if there are questions, any comments, I will be happy to answer any.
Will we be walking more than 100 kilometers?
Yes, we for this certification. Yeah, I think it's Ferrol, it's 118 kilometers. Neda, where we will start, it's 100. A Coruña,
We started Neda. Yeah.
Neda, yeah, it's 100. So we will have the Compostela. I think a Coruña it's shorter, but they did, I think, very recently, the church did an exemption for a Coruña that even if it's less than 100 kilometers, you can still have the Compostela. But we are good. Yeah, from Neda it's 100 kilometers, so we will have.
There's a question online, Don.
Oh, yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, I actually have 3 questions here, if I may. One is, I got very interested in this map of Polish Caminos that you showed. Where is this coming from? What's the source of that map? And, can you share the source? Do you have that? Is it an article? Because there was some citation there, but I didn't catch it.
So this is basically an ancient medieval routes. This was among these routes from Moscow to Santiago. Recently, I think starting from the 90s, I'm not sure if it was the Polish government or some Catholic group start to revise all these ancient routes.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. The Polish government or religious group. It's
all combined all together. Yeah, I mean, this is it. Basically, it's starting, I think, from the 90s. I think after John Paul gave a lot of impulse to this, and it's not as developed as the Spanish Camino. I don't have the reference. If you want, I can email you the reference about this. But this was a map showing paths that are originally seen that they were medieval or modern time paths that all connected to this main route from Moscow to a city in Germany, and then in central Germany, this route there was the tour south to Rome, and then continue to west to Santiago. So all these lines that you see there were all these paths from mostly northern Poland, joining this main route going east west.
Yeah, so if you can email that reference, I would very much appreciate that. Now, my second question is about that movie about those Irishmen, taking a boat to Spain. Do you know where this movie can be found? Is it streamed somewhere on one of the services? Where can I find that movie?
I think you can find, if I correctly remember, you can find in YouTube. I think I watch a few clips in YouTube, but I think there is the entire movie in YouTube.
What was that called?
The journey, the voyage Camino, I think, the voyage Camino.
Mm-hmm.
So
And finally, I have a question. Are there any books, kind of newer books, that you would recommend, both like memoirs of pilgrims, people who walked that thing, or maybe historical books about, the history of that Camino, something that I could read? Is there anything you could recommend?
There are books of contemporary pilgrim. I don't know how actually these books, recent books, are more the experience of these pilgrims. I'm not sure how historical accurate they go. If you want something that's more historical accurate, there are more academic articles for this. But I don't, in the top of my mind, I cannot give any title here about this because I'm more interested in the history. So I prefer to read academic articles rather than this kind of modern account of pilgrims. So, but again, I will, if you want some reference of this academic article, I can send you, if you are interested, to the history. But for modern, I'm not, I don't follow, I'm not really interested in this account of these people doing. So I'm more interested in the history, in the historical aspect.
Understood. So if you can recommend anything, I'd appreciate it.
I will send you an email. Yeah.
And I just sent Margaret a screenshot of where you can watch the movie.
Oh,
So
is
you
it
can send to me.
is in YouTube or no?
For you have to pay.
Oh, okay.
It's on Amazon and Apple TV.
Okay. And this Irish movie they did the journey in 2014, but the movie came out in 2018. So there was 4 years of post-production. So yeah, but it's quite interesting. There are one of the 4 men, I think it's a musician, it's a famous Irish musician. Another, it's a director, I think. So but there are some of them are famous in Ireland. Okay. Any other questions, comment?
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you, Davide. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, so are you switching?